Miss Murr grew up in a multilingual household and has studied many languages. She is currently studying Chinese and is a language acquisition teacher for AISG for French and Spanish. She will be presenting Why Learn a Foreign Language.
Today, we live in a world where technology is making leaps and bounds in being able to help us communicate across languages with instantaneous translators like Google Translate and its sisters, as well as AI software. The key term here being help. This does not mean replace. And so in today's world, we are still required to do one of the most human things possible, communicate with each other. In our time together today, we will consider how you should dare to bend and learn a foreign language, even though we have the technology that can so easily translate for us. Let us consider, what are foreign language teachers really teaching students? Honestly, it's communication. We're not teaching you vocabulary lists and grammar rules. That's something you're going to learn by yourself. We're here to teach you to apply those, to use them to communicate effectively in another language with other speakers. And so acquisition is about the functional use of language and the building of fluency. We are here to help you apply what you've learned in real-life contexts. And so communicating in another language means learning to look at the world from another perspective. For example, and my French students can tell you this, French teachers and French parents will not tell their students bonne chance, which means good luck. We say bon courage. And the reason for that is because courage is something inside of you. It's something that you have control over, and luck is something outside of you that controls you. And so French adults choose to teach their children to face life with courage and moral strength, rather than wish luck upon them. This example shows us that we learn to understand the perspective of others through cultural competency and open-mindedness. Foreign language teachers are teaching culture as an intrinsic and integral part of our curriculum. Culture are products, practices, and perspectives. Products are objects that we see every day. For example, a spoon or chopsticks. Practices are the things we do, like washing our face in the morning or going to a cultural celebration and celebrating festivals like Christmas or the upcoming Chinese New Year. And perspectives are the way we look at things and the values that we have. And so it's really important for us to keep that in mind as we are learning a new language. And so to give you an example about why we should care about perspectives and the perspective of others, let me give you an example from the United States. So there was an American businessman who decided he wanted to make a multi-million-dollar deal with a Saudi royal. I don't know if this story is true, just let me preface that. This Saudi did not need to make the deal with the American, but the American really wanted the deal. So he had to work really hard for several months to gain the trust of the Saudi royal. And once he gained the trust, he was confident they were going to sign the deal. The day of signing arrived. The American businessman sat down next to the Saudi and lifted up his foot. Now, that was an unfortunate gesture because the Saudi stood up and left the room without signing, and the deal was a flop. So what does this show us? This shows us that this behavior, this practice, had a very different meaning and perspective in the two different cultures. And this had serious consequences, especially for the American businessman, who then had to go back to his boss and explain why he lost the deal. And so we can see that the American businessman thought this gesture, this practice, to be a sign of a relaxed attitude and to be comfortable around his counterpart. Whereas the Saudi royal understood it as a sign of disrespect and cursing. Respect is defined differently in different cultures, and it's important for us to learn how to communicate appropriately using respect. And learning perspectives is about encountering and communicating with members of the language communities, and it's made possible because we have acquired their language. So the other important element when looking at the world from another perspective is knowing yourself and being aware of your own perspectives. In the example of the American businessman, he did not have that kind of self-awareness to consider that his practice might reflect a different perspective from the Saudi royal. And in the classroom, one of the things language teachers ask you to do is to reflect on your own perspectives and to connect with what you see, to think about which of your cultural practices reflects similar perspectives. You must learn to think about what you do and why and who you are. So thus far, we have seen that acquiring a language is about communication and perspective. It is also about knowing ourselves so that we may go forth and encounter others with an open mind. There's another reason why we should acquire a language, and that is to preserve the rich and dynamic variations of a language and culture. We must consider, where does technology find its source material for languages and translations? Oftentimes, technology does not have access to regional variations and local differences, and it falls short in helping us understand untranslatable words. For example, in Swedish, there is a term called dostadning. It's very difficult for me to say. And it's translated as death cleaning. So this is a practice done out of love and practicality prior to one's own death, where you begin to reduce the number of worldly belongings that you have, and you make plans for those other belongings for after your death. And this is really important, that we do not lose these kinds of words that convey important cultural practices and perspectives. The same is true of indigenous languages, whether in the Amazon, in North America, in the Australian continent, or any other region of the world. As speakers of indigenous languages disappear, so does the knowledge contained therein, such as specific geographical, topographical features, or herbal and medicinal knowledge of plants and ecosystems. Now let's come back to, what does it mean when we are acquiring another language? It means taking a moment to step into another person's shoes and developing empathy for the speakers of that language as you both search for common ground and exchange a message. Learning and acquiring a foreign language is about seeing the humanity in others and seeking to understand their perspective. Thus, acquiring a language is also acquiring a culture and daring to connect deeply with ourselves and with others. Thank you.